Welcome to the quilting tools. We're going to talk about the quilting mat. My name is Sally and I love quilting. This mat is the foundation that you will use whenever you're cutting your fabrics to make a quilt. So it really needs to be the right mat. So when you go to purchase one, you need to look at four things: the size of the mat, the color of the mat, markings that are on the mat, and if it's self-healing. Size, you need to be sure that it's going to be big enough for you to cut the fabric on. Fabrics are usually 45 inches wide, and so you need one that's fairly close to that. At the same time, you need to be sure that the surface that you're going to place the mat is not going to be smaller than the mat so it doesn't hang off on the side, which causes warping. The color of the mats, there are all sorts of colors. The most common one you'll see is green. There are blue, pink, there's even yellow. I bought a yellow one and it was too much of an eye strain, so be sure that whatever color you pick, that it's not one that will strain your eyes. The markings that are on it are measurements. The simple grid, the 1-inch grids that come up the side and across the top, are really all you really need. The other ones that you see here are templates, and they really don't need those to begin with. The other thing about color and markings is that you want to find a mat that's colored on one side with the markings, and then if you flip it over, it's a different color, so that if a fabric blends in with one color, you can flip it and use the other side to cut your material. And then the self-healing. It's very important that you do purchase a mat that is self-healing because it will last a lot longer. When you're cutting fabrics with a rotary blade, and we'll talk about that in the next lesson, the blade on the cutter goes through all the materials and goes to the mat, and it will cut the mat. What happens with these is the property is such that the mat actually sort of heals itself. You don't keep the cut there. Sometimes if it does keep a cut, you can just take your hand and rub it across it, and that's all you have to do. Then other times, when you've used it for a long time, the cuts may not heal as well. So you want to take a pot scrubber and you want to scrub it so that it gets as many of those cuts. It's an abrasive motion that will get rid of those cuts for you. When you are storing and caring for your mat, you want to be sure that it lays on a flat surface, that it's not hanging off, as we mentioned earlier, which can cause warping. When a mat warps, it is no longer going to give you an accurate cut of your fabric, and that is extremely important when you're quilting. You also don't want to set it on its side, because then it will curve and then you can't use it anymore. So find a place where you can lay it on a hard surface, horizontal like I have it here, and protect it so that it doesn't warp. We'll go back over everything that I just talked about. You want to watch the size of the mat. You want to look for a good color that's not going to strain your eyes. You want to look for one that doesn't have a whole lot of little markings on it, just the simple 1-inch grid and maybe a couple of lines for angles. Then you want to be sure that it's self-healing so that you can maintain that mat for a longer length of time. You also want to keep a scrub brush or a hot scrubber around so that if you need to, you can get rid of those cuts if they're staying and you can't get rid of them. And remember to do things, laying it on the flat surface so that it doesn't warp. And that's all we have for today. Thank you.